afternoon, everybody. My name is Chad Barton. I'm very honored and pleased to be here. I'll take a second to just thank Colleen and Andrea and Tyra and everybody that's helped put this all together. It's been just a wonderful weekend of collaboration and meeting people and just to tell a little bit of the story, to give honor to the land that we're on. I grew up on this land. I was born not too far from here. I was adopted at that point in time in my life to two wonderful parents that allowed me the opportunity to chase every dream, gain education. I later on, as a teenager, moved to Saskatchewan, chasing those dreams as a young hockey player, lived in a residential school, reconnected with a culture that I wasn't necessarily raised with, but that I was born with. And then as a 18-year-old, met my birth parents and was able to reconnect with that family, met my cookum, who's just a badass woman in Vancouver that started the Missing Murdered Indigenous March 30 years ago, and as a 3-year-old still leads that march and stops at every site and prays for those that have been lost. So I have that deep connection, and I think that's the piece. When we give acknowledgement to the land, it's really important that we all understand that we have a story, and that story was built here on this land, and that our obligation as treaty people, which we all are, is to revisit and just do our best to do the best things we can on the land and the opportunity that other people suffered to have us here all today, and that's all of our relations. So thanks all for being here today. I'm going to take this great opportunity now to introduce the people that hopefully you came to see. You're here. I was really excited when Colleen asked me who I would like to have. These people came to front of mind, and they're both doing just absolutely wonderful things in their communities. And then because of such are able to go beyond just their festival weekends. And so I've got Nikki and Zale to my left here. Maybe what I'll do is I'm just going to kind of hand it right off to Nikki to kind of start with her origin story in this industry and with the festival.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, and thanks. It's an honor to sit with you both here and with everyone today. My name's Nikki. I've been in the industry for about 15 years now, and I started as I'm a visual artist and I'm a sculptor. So I got into the music industry by doing stage designs and environmental focused installations, and then that just moved into more so managing different areas of festivals and just sort of going into more so of the event production side of things. And I started in the electronic scene. I'm a psytrance person to the core, and then moved into live music, and that's where I found deep-rooted community and some of my best friends. And so I'm the co-founder and director of LieLow Music Festival, which started at the very beginning of COVID. So that festival was born out of conversations one day of that all of my work dried up and all of my expression or artistic outlets dried up. So then I was like, let's do it on our own, and let's create a party within the measurements of COVID that we're allowed to do it. And so we did. And we've been doing it every year since. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, and if you haven't been to Milo, Alberta, there's probably because, there's not a lot out in Milo, Alberta on its own on the regular, and yet it is amazing, like so many other secondary markets, which I've spent a lifetime traveling artists to, and it's where it can really live. That connection, and I heard the last panel speaking very, very fondly of education and exposure, and that's something that Nikki and Summer through LieLow are doing for the people of Milo.
Yeah.
And it really is a beautiful space. Like there's a great lake over there. There's a classic curling rink. It's
yeah.
available.
So Milo's a village of 90 people. So when we hold the event of LieLow Music Festival, we're more than tripling the people that are in this village during the weekend and hosting events throughout the year. It's a lot of building relationships with these people within Milo, and also just bringing some love and activation to Southern Alberta, and which is Milo is right in the heart of Snake Valley. So it's in the middle of the triangle. We've got Siksika, then we have Vulcan, and we have High River. So we're right in the middle of that. So yeah, it's a really beautiful place.
I grew up going to South Country Fair, and if anybody in here has been to South Country Fair, you know what that magical feeling is. You know,
Old Man River.
Where you're just a part of a community of like minds. You don't need to know who is playing to go to South Country Fair every year, and just know that it's going to be a wonderful weekend and it'll be a recharge. And there was a summer where I just was like, okay, like I wanted to do a little more than that. And as a teacher, I've taught for 20 years now. It frees my summers up to allow me to do that. And I'd reached out to Pickathon to volunteer and just go help be a part of that build, and stumbled across what I would say is like that magic feeling. And Zale's all the way from Portland here to talk to you, and maybe I'll just get you to start at the start.
Thanks for having me. It's really awesome to meet many of you and hang out. So that's been really awesome to see everyone's creative passions. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, I'm from Kentucky, so I kind of grew up playing music and having community radio stations, and just kind of like I always say, like, the root of these things are kind of a better party, you know, kind of like, if I'm just being honest, we always said this is just the best party we could throw. And we started Pickathon in '99 when I moved to kind of Portland in '97, and it just kind of grew out of control. So now it's 27 years later, but it's our 25th anniversary coming up. And it's a music festival, but it has always kind of used community, and over the years we just have figured out what that means. So like we were small, like regional music festival, always mixing up styles. So like our festival mixes up everything you can think of. Like there's not a style we don't do, which was confusing to lots of people. And in the kind of weird genres, like, you know, like certain genres, like that back in '99, you had to do a certain style of music. It had to be a blues fest or a folk fest. And so we were just like shunned by everyone until they're like, oh, this is interesting music and I don't know anyone, but it doesn't matter. And so like we're essentially, from our lots of other things, like we're just a small festival. We're 10,000 people, but the site could hold like 30 or 40. So it's like really underpopulated compared to what it could be.
By design.
By design, so you can have kids, and it just sucks to be in a.
Is the capacity capped at 10K? Like for
12.
12. Okay.
Yeah. But we could have a lot more. So, but we choose to, and it ranges. I think this year's around 8 or 9, and then because we've been down a little bit from out of COVID, but you know, in general, pre-COVID, we were hitting 10, 11, 12. Yeah, and there's a lot more, but essentially, modern day version of this, we have a lot more understanding of the community side. And coming out of COVID, I just realized, man, we need to just scale up this community part, because what we really want to create is this immersive festival that has every little natural area has some kind of team kind of bringing it to life with art, and thinking of that art not just kind of like, oh, it's just going to be some installation. Like let's create the most amazing thing we can. And then in that kind of context, some of the teams we were recruiting were like a university class at Portland State University. So it became since 2013, they've had this class that's designed and build one of our neighborhoods or stages. And it's like the most popular class at the I mean, it's like a reason people go to the grad program now. It's they've won national awards. Through that whole program, we've learned like, what does this stuff turn into? It's not just going to be thrown away. So why don't we they call it diversion architecture. We kind of use it across all of our teams now. And that team, built tiny homes out of their stage 1 year for vets in Clackamas County. It's been apple crates. It's been all kinds of wild materials in it, but it always turns into something else. That now is 23 teams. So they're each of these teams are architects and builders and artists and some combination of technical and culinary. It's just everything is depending on what it is. Imagine an entire festival ground kind of carved up, all seamed together in these immersive experiences. So it's hard to explain because it's just really crazy, overwhelming. But in that context, we're using the community to, now we're starting a nonprofit. We're like, okay, how does this make sense? None of that stuff makes sense on the business side, but we're using it for art, mentoring, and kind of civic impact. That's where we're at.
And I think this is the point, and I mentioned to our two panelists that this is where I'd like to offer up some question time. If you came here with questions, if you knew a Pickathon or LieLow, if you do have any questions right out the gate, maybe we'll start with that, and otherwise I'll just carry on. But yeah, go ahead.
For both, but for Pickathon, do you have a theme every year that guides these installations, or is it how do you ground the energy of the festival for each year, and how do they differentiate?
I really trust smart, creative people. So we carve up natural settings. This is a meadow. This is a grove in the woods. This is a stage that happens, programs this time. This is where we have food. So we kind of carve up, but it's bounded by its already a cool natural setting. And then we have gateways. So the kind of common things are gateways and the functional items. And besides that, it's they propose ideas to us. And this is be the fourth year of really kind of all in on this diffused, 20 team type approach. And it's just going out of control. We just trust people and they kill it. Yeah, I mean, you have to see the art, but it's only getting stronger because we've had aspirational people to involve, and they've been, yeah, maybe next year, and now it's just floodgates open. Everybody we ask, architects, builders, they're just yes, boop. And now we're okay, do we even have enough spaces? So we're subdividing again. But we purposely do those to let them have fun, because a lot of that reason it works is it's not a year-long commitment. We're come play. You guys are already successful, and the mentoring part's really easy too. We're it's a longer conversation, but we develop these teams to kind of be successful, but we want them to also be kind of inspiring the next generation, connecting people, being a workforce development, hooking, jobs get hooked up, people's lives changed. Yeah.
Nikki, I can help guide you to where I personally have always worn a number of different hats and never actually worked in the music industry, or definitely for the music industry, but for my friends. And we've all heard this kind of theme, you want to help friends. And I think everybody in here is creative. Can I see how many people are in bands? All right. How many people are management or promotional pieces? Yeah. And people wear many hats, and we're all, it's I think for the most part we found ourselves here because it's our creative outlet, one way or another, and that's what connects us. And so I have been connecting different people over the years, and it's brought me to Nikki and Summer and what Milo's doing. It does very much remind me of what's happening at Pickathon, and it's just at a different age of where it's at. But they've purchased a church over there, and the one thing is that they treat people the very best, and in so get the very best things that come out of it. And so I've taken people out to the church in Milo, and we played the little honky tonk saloon bar that fits like 60 people, and kind of blown a bunch of farmers' minds with the talent that just ends up in Milo. And then the church, though, artists go back to the space that they've created. Maybe you can talk to that,
Yes.
and maybe what your plan is with going forward.
So it's a decommissioned Lutheran church. So we purchased it from Lutheran Limited directly. And it was a publicly zoned building, and then we got it rezoned into residential and commercial. So that was a bit of a process, and I learned a lot because a lot of things don't grandfather in. So you have to take a building that was built in 1975 and bring it up to today's standards. But with that, we hold a lot of events there throughout the year, but it's also a community space. So for me, I like to think that music and festivals is my new religion. Community, building that outside of just the festivals, is what I believe is my worship space, and that's how I connect into anything greater than myself. And this church has become this really interesting allegory of that within my life. So we have people coming to visit all the time. It's a community space for if anyone needs like a respite away. We've got bands and musicians will come in and write and record and just use it as an inspirational area. So it's been really interesting to see it evolve into what it is today and have it available. And to speak on your question around themes, I've worked with other festivals that do have a dedicated theme every year that you can work within that umbrella, and it is a great way of directing creativity. But within LieLow and where what I'm at, I respect when you say that you trust creative people. So it's within the theme you can direct a focus, but without a theme, it's like anything's really possible. So within LieLow and within Milo in Southern Alberta, it's just more so platforming people. If you want to do something, come and do it. We hardly ever say no. So it's more so the constant invitation and effort looking for just creative people that want to do something and giving them the avenue to do it and just surrounding them with love and get it done, Yeah.
And I think we all live in a day and age where things happen are really, really fast that we're actually not physically capable of keeping up with, and it leaves us feeling maybe at times like we haven't done enough, or oh man, now I have to wait a whole nother year. And I've come to appreciate that like nothing really happens fast and nothing happens slow within this world. It's like boom, sometimes it goes. And some of the areas that I've been able to just even impart myself into these communities that maybe neither really even knew was happening before we really got some time together. One thing that I really look forward to and just bringing to LieLow was like a disc golf course, because that's just a great little space and something for people to do while there. And like I said, it's just like, sure, like it's that easy. For Zale, you must have a bit of an idea of how large your footprint is beyond your festival, but I route artists out from Pickathon to Calgary Folk Fest is on one side of Pickathon and Edmonton's on the other. And so I will like drill into that lineup where my friends are playing Pickathon that are, maybe not quite on that level of being able to fill 1,000-person cap, but are making enough money on either side that we can like build a fishing trip tour where we're playing like Fernie and Longview and just sliding into like the most beautiful places on earth and still making money, but not paying to be on the road between these two festival dates. There's opportunity beyond both of their festivals just by hosting such wonderful people. Zale, I'd like you to kind of talk about how you create that magical feeling where everybody does feel very much a part of the community, regardless of whether or not they're working, which, by the way, of the 10,000, I think 4,000 are volunteer on some level.
It's a little more than half on generally, yeah. It's not volunteer staff, it's just the whole non-paid, including artists and the friends and industry, and yeah.
On site is 4,000, but little things that you get to experience when you go to these festivals, like your foot can be right on the stage tapping along with Tyler Childers, without a barrier, without a feeling of like, oh, I'm being watched by this security. And so just by having those things deconstructed, it does just automatically create, we are the community, we need to take care of this and maintain it. And so you don't have those major issues, or I've never seen or experienced it at either one of your spaces. Intentional?
I mean, I always say the way you get to something that just looks like us is, is you just survive every year and you fix up your fuck ups, because like doing a festival that's organic like this is like, there's just massive issues you like encounter. You're like doing your vision, and you may have like mass revolt or pissed off people, and you fix it, and then no one thinks about it again, and you have some other issue. So it's like, and then the issues become smaller, and then it looks like you have some kind of like cryptic, crazy, Olympic level machine. You're like, whoa, what is going on? You're like, actually, it's just because we've been doing it a long time. Mm-hmm. So it's very organic. I think all events and all communities are very organic. And, there's nothing really unique about what we're doing in that way, except that we've very much, it sounds like the same for you guys, is we just invest in the community part's really super important for us. Like that's how we feel kind of like, okay, this matters. It's not just extraction-based, US music festival, which, we don't have any truss stages. We don't have anything that looks like a normal stage. Everything looks wild, like a piece of artwork, but it functions as a great stage. Sounds great, looks great. We also think of them as film sets, because we film everything. It can be between 300 and 600 people per year on a film crew. So a very serious film crew with trailers and editing and fiber optics running a couple miles all over this farm. Directors mixing sounds, positions at each stage for the broadcast as well as the live. And so we've kind of figured all of it again by doing big mistakes, little things, lighting, set design, where the audience is. You kind of tune your performance based on how it looks on film, because you can just kind of tell it's stale or it's not, and then so they've helped each other. And then just like the little things, like just having comfort, good food, just having spaces for taking care of artists. It's ridiculous in the United States how many like parking lots with a pop-up trailer and a cheese tray. That's what you get as an artist, and you're only getting it for 2 hours or an hour, and then you're out. And then we don't do anything like that. We build these very elaborate backstage areas that are, scratch kitchens, and artists, there's backstages everywhere. It's like band vacation. And I think a lot of bands love Pickathon because that feeling of they're just being taken care of. And then the venues are they can be big. Some of them, one of them can hold our whole audience, the main paddock stage. But they're just fun for artists. And so and the crowd that's kind of grown up around it is very, wants to like see music, so they're like tuned in. And it's just, that's the magic, is the whole thing just kind of is a community. Like people know what they're getting into. I don't know any bands. That's probably the other weird thing about us, is you wouldn't know, most people don't know anybody on our lineup. But you will a couple years later, they're like, oh, wow, those guys played a Pickathon.
Play the game, like play that little game of like pull up any year of the lineup at Pickathon and look at it. And like having worked in the industry, and also like I throw offers to help. I often get contracted by festivals to help curate or whatever. And I know that, for example, a 2018 lineup is in the neighborhood of $4 million in artist budget that gets done on a budget of
350.
Right, and that's really a big reason why I go to Pickathon, is just to find the very best acts on the planet, because it's what they have to do. to be able to allow 4,000 people to come create,
Yeah.
you know, their artistic vision and have that holiday for themselves by fueling their creative outlet. And you both had jobs before this and still,
I don't have a job now, but I had a day job for, I don't know, 24 years of the 27, yeah. And so I never took money from this either, forever, because I had a day job. So it made my commitment to the community just more ridiculous. I'm like, of course we're gonna make it less people because it's better, and of course we're gonna do, and I just, now that I'm actually in it, I have a slightly different perspective, but I mean, it's still very clear of how I want it to be, like this community-driven thing, but like day jobs are important when you're growing a festival. I think having others, I think it's really how you a lot of festivals. If you have to live off of it and it's small, it probably it's gonna be really hard. I don't know what your experience has been.
I have many jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't not work. I'm always doing something, whether it's creative-based or not. But
Right.
I've worked with AHS for about 18 years. So I've often said, I've like sold my soul to the devil, but it like helped me be a starving, not so starving artist. And that's where I've paid all my bills and I've created my own platform to be able to do everything else I do. Because I've been working in the music industry and the visual art industry for free for many, many years. And that's brought me into positions of being able to not work for free, but be able to get grants and to work into other avenues. But yeah, I had a job for a very long time, and a lot of evenings and weekends were committed to that. But that to me is like the basis of the community and building it. And to circle back on what you're talking about with hospitality, it's a primary thing that I put before a lot of stuff within LieLow and the other events is that everyone feels included, feels taken care of, feels loved. It's the food that we provide, the drinks, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, including everybody, is like really, really important. And it's having everyone feel safe and welcome. I'm also a big proponent of no VIP and no artist lounges, because I sat on the board of Frog Fest for a long time, and one of the beautiful parts of that festival for me back at the Old Land in Rocky Mountain House is that someone would come just to a festival, but then you'd be camping next to the band or camping next to the person that you wanted to sing, and that integration of the artist and the client was one of the more magical things. So I'm often kicking people out of the green lounge, and I'm like, eat what you want, do what you want, but go hang out with the people that are here for you. So it's like, I'm really into just everyone being on an equal playing field. I'm anti-VIP.
that's a thing that I've experienced and lived at Pickathon too, like the piece, I think out of the size of Pickathon, there is a bit of a need for certain places in concierge. And
They're not they're not VIP though, because all the backstage people have access, so it's like they are forced to mix, and so like we have we do have kind of like a dressing room area that is kind of functional for artists that need that kind of, but it's not like set up for them to live there, but for a purpose.
like I watched and both of you offer this, and I grew up South Country Feral as a kid, and my kids became South Country Feral, and the kids can go to these places and be feral, and parents can know that they're safe, but they can also like engage. There's like an entire road at Pickathon where it's just lined with kids giving you a hand massage for a quarter. One day I helped this kid sort out all of his baseball cards because he was selling baseball cards, and we just read the stories on the back of baseball cards together. My daughter picked flowers out of the ditches and sold little mini bouquets, and she was able to then buy a pair of used Birkenstocks from the market, the actual market. And my son, I remember Valerie June sitting down and getting her a page out of Calgary Folk Fest, the unfortune teller, and he had gotten a bowling ball and like a golden tablecloth and a bandana and just sat there with cards, and Valerie June picked a card with, And so the people, it is such a community that nobody is hiding out backstage and trying to get off property as quick as possible.
Yeah, they're fans. They're out watching music, hanging out.
Matt, I'm going to lean on you for a second because you would have had an artist play Pickathon before. What are the stories that come back to you as an agent?
I mean, the one band that played Pickathon, they fired me a month later. But I did hear they had an awesome time. The pictures and the videos that I saw were awesome.
Your honesty is respected here.
And I really want my band, at least like, you know, I want it. Getting to know Zale, and I want my bands to be a part of this, you know. It sounds familiar to some, you know, from Toronto, and I've been to a couple little camping festivals in Southern Ontario, and it feels just like a bigger scale of that, which is really cool to me. Also, as someone who, at a fairly early age, realized the major, you know, the Osheagos, Lollapaloozas, does not make me feel good, you know. It's too many people, or it's everybody, too many there for partying and clout, and just not the music. And in small, you know, festivals like this is clearly where the heart is, and it reminds me why I like music. Live music so much, so I need to get out there.
And Milo, like I can attest to what you're talking about and why bands really love it, and patrons and just people enjoy going to these spaces. Like there's one section in the wood stage which is like one of the most magical stages you'll ever watch music in, and you can just set up hammocks and just lay in hammocks and have full view of the stage. You both do such a good job of taking care of Zale. Actually, at one point in time, I heard Zale in an interview speak to the fact that they're a music festival, but first and foremost, they're content developers. And this was like pre-COVID, where they were the first field recordings. And you talk about really big festivals where you see these lineups and you're like, that's amazing. And you get onto it and you're like, you can't digest it. You can't go there and not come out feeling as if you saw a tenth of what was actually put in front of you. And you have how many artists?
55.
55 over the course of a full weekend. And you don't have to make that choice because they all play twice. And then they also play a third session where they have a full recording. At one point there was like 6 stages that were hidden. And at all times while this festival is going on, bands were playing on these hidden stages and recording full-scale music videos. And like I think one of the first ones I ever came across, there's a whole story that I'm not going to share, but I just came out and boom, it was Cut Worms doing this like nighttime thing. It was me and Daka Braka just sitting in the grass watching Cut Worms play a song for just us. And that's happening at all times, you know?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we thought of content as, I mean, there's gravity in these festivals. Like as you do them, there's just more gravity, and like the platforms grow and they become more meaningful, and you can direct them. Early on, like we were just for necessity, this discovery festival, and that's just how we always kind of grew up. And so one of the first things that happened for us just in terms of impact is we have any bands that play the festival now instantly can kind of play the West Coast a couple of venues bigger. It just immediately happens because Super Music, I mean, usually we're pretty careful about bringing in people in the kind of creative zeitgeist themselves. They're on their cycle, they're on tour, all the passion's there, we got the ingredients, and then fans just totally react to it. So it really creates a buzz. And then the content for us was like, oh, this is how we're going to scale. And so we did that back in 2010. We've had like a lot of industry stuff on that. I've been to Digital Hollywood and done a lot of things. It's gone up and down, but like our whole basic bottom line was like, we wanted to influence pop culture. We wanted to just like throw a monkey wrench. We're like, no, this is really good music. we're gonna film it better, it's gonna sound better, it's just gonna have that energy. And we've definitely done that, but it's not like, it's never been, it's been a real challenge to like make that actually pay, monetize it. In fact, we lose money on that right now, but we see it as kind of education, and it has a huge impact on the music world. But for us, that was like the art of capturing that, the kind of has been like a serious obsession of ours. So all of those little sound stages are also hangouts for, like, one's just next to a living room for the artist where they're camping. And people will hang out there all day long because it's just so fun to be there. You can't do everything at our festival, you have to like choose. And so we always joke that everybody thinks they had the best Pickathon, but they probably, nobody had the same one because you just can't be everywhere.
Yeah, the most recent two you'd said, do you think that you're more of a, like I heard you say this weekend in talking with, and this was what Nikki was just talking about, that you're almost more of like a wellness conference for people now too. What are some of the things, Nikki, that you would love to do with more people with the space that you have?
I mean, that's a loaded question. It can be anything, really. Our focus is creating the creation of art, music, platforming. So more people would just be having more artists, visual artists and musicians, being able to come to rural Alberta, see the value in that. A large part of our mission right now is to find the code and break it of getting people out of Calgary and into rural Alberta, and finding the value in driving an hour and 30 minutes away. When people are looking at the concept of time, I'm like, I've seen people drive further in Calgary for less, so just drive to us and see what happens. During LieLow or during any other time, like just come to Alberta, southern Alberta, see what's there. So what I would like to see with more people is just more artists, more art, more music, and more adventure in that engagement. Calgary is it's a universe within its own, and it's hard to get people to come out of it. So I would like to find more people that would adventure past that membrane, because there's a really bright and wonderful world in the Porcupine Hills.
And just as you're talking about, I think I recall at one of the festivals you had like a bird tour.
Abso-freaking-lutely. I don't know if it's because I'm like flirting with middle age, but I do identify as a birder. I wasn't the one leading it, but Lisa Dalside, who's a really amazing person that I was working within conservation and biodiversity, was the one that led the workshop. So we've got lots of different workshops happening, and that was one of them. And Milo is close to Frank Lake, which is one of the larger Ducks Unlimited conservation sites. So we have a lot of nesting birds there, like the white-faced ibis, which is really, really special. And we've got pelican colonies and whatnot. So it was cool to be able to bring people around and look at what birds we have there. So, yeah.
Last year I had an artist touring around that's from Arkansas, and same sort of thing. He had just heard about this magical place through his friend Nick Shoulders, who had toured coming out of Pickathon, and that there's these great people up here. And in that, like, I was like, okay, setting the tour for him. I'm like, oh man, if we end up in Milo, I'll run out the ice fishing hut, and after the show, we'll just like sit on the lake ice fishing. And I think like engaging with your environment and allowing people that period of time is a real true reset that both of you guys do a really good job of. What's our time at? We're into that hour. We are into that hour, and there are a lot of showcases happening around town. I know we started a little bit late. I'm gonna ask that you guys ask some questions if you do have. Go ahead, Rocky.
So cool, because your festival's been around for 25 years. Also, LieLow is so magical. I only went to your wedding, not the festival yet, so I'm coming. So. I guess thinking about it's I know it's hard, and you both, I think, I don't know as much about the community, that the actual physical community, non-music community around Pickathon. So kind of two questions. Game changer moments, for better or for worse, that helped shift your festival to survive. Any specific thing could be we should do this differently with the volunteers, or let's get this insurance. Something that was just game changing and that. And two, how did your festival impact the the non-music community that it basically invaded, or and vice versa, or how did they, what surprised you out of just suddenly bringing this thing here?
Yeah.
My two questions.
Yeah, that's a
Game
great
changer.
question. The first one, game changer, I would say the end of the pandemic was a game changer for us because we started in the pandemic. So it was not having to deal with all of the 3 meters apart and that kind of stuff was just I was like, oh my God, this is a whole world where I can just do whatever I want. And that's so amazing. And we can hug people again. That's great. So that was a big thing. And I would say my game changer was actually even before starting LieLow. It was just doing my own festival. So working under people and doing their festivals for so many years and providing their vision was a really great experience. But being able to have those skills and then transfer it into my own pocket and create my own festival was a huge game changer in how it is that I wake up every day and how I work as a full-time artist and producer and be able to manage my time in both my studio and on my computer. So that was a huge game changer in my creative and entrepreneurial life. And for the community, so the festival beyond the community would then, I would say, beyond the community of LieLow. So it was the village of Milo and the people that witness us but might not align with us continues to be a really interesting conversation and dialogue because we are in Southern Alberta, and as much as I'd like to say that we are evolved and liberal and everyone is inclusive, that's not the fact. And there's actually some really, really non-inclusive people out there, and it's being able to have tender conversations with them and then pick and choose the vocabulary I'm using in contrast to what they're using, and being able to see me as a human and what I'm doing. And within Milo, a big part of the conversation is well, who are you? Why are you here? Those people have been born in some of those houses and they haven't left for 60 years. And they're you're different, you bring change. And why are you doing what you're doing? And for me, it's just because I want to. And I'm not making any money. And I'm just here because this is fun for me. And they do not understand that a lot of the time. So it's being able to dissolve their construct of who is a weird artist from the city, or I'm covered in tattoos and they don't understand. So it's showing up and being present, thinking about community beyond my direct influence is unity, alignment, and trust, and then there's participation and purpose. So a lot of those things is what I'll bring to Milo, and showing them that I'm not going to go anywhere. And a lot of our influence then supports the cafe there, the grocery store, the local bar, and we don't take anything from them, but we're dumping into them. But then further than that, I'm showing up at the local bonspiels, and I'm showing up at, at the schools, and I'm just showing up and this is who I am. I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, and I want to be your friend, and I'm going to buy your pickles, and all those kinds of things really mean something to them. And the mayor of Milo won't answer my call, so I have to find him and sit down and buy him a beer and sit there for hours and just be this is my FaceTime, because they're really old school, even though they're kind of the same age, but they're of a different universe of it. So I hope that answered your question a bit. Yeah.
Game changers. I think we weren't at Pendarvis Farm, so finding the right location for us was a game changer, one, but we were really small, a couple hundred people for almost 8 or 9 years, just tiny. And I think when we first kind of got our first big breaks musically, we had the Avett Brothers when they were nobody, and the Everybody Fields, which is now Mandolin Orange, and Langhorne Slim. We just had a lot of like bands that started this snowball of the discovery thing. And then that kind of turned into, we had Will Oldham in 2010 with, tons of other, Bill Callahan, and they were just kind of coming because they liked us. And it just, that first kind of big lucky break, because for festivals like this, it's word of mouth. You're not going to do from, we can never do the normal festival of like the big artist and one crappy stage and jam everybody in. First of all, there's no community in that. But second of all, the big issue there is now you are doomed to word of mouth. So like kind of getting enough word of mouth is like, and just being patient. If you know you're starting that kind of festival, don't beat yourself up. You're in this, like give yourself a 10-year window before you even like want to like consider, is this working or not? Because you're not going to be able to pull it off, because it literally is probably going to be word of mouth. Unless you're in a really kind of zeitgeist music scene like EDM or something that's really popular. Mm-hmm. If you're really trying to carve out something that's unique, then you really are in like us. And the other way I look at it is every year is the best year. So we like push ourselves hard every year. And if we pull it off, like last year felt amazing because we reinvented after COVID, we reinvented the entire festival. And it was hard, but this year was kind of glorious. So that feels good. If you set high goals and you just like, you get there. So it's emotionally, you feel like your team's still invested. Artistically, you're still stimulated. Mm-hmm. And now we're just like, spidering out of control with mentoring and civic impact, and what does this all turn? It's growing into just a whole nother beast right now. So, and just in terms of neighbors or impact in the community, like pretty much everybody in Portland is doing something at Pickathon. Like some major artist communities, we have so many people in communities. That's one layer of involvement. The neighbors. This is a very, very fast, densely growing area in Portland. It's a 100-acre farm on the side of a kind of a butte, but it's on the very edge of the where they're infilling everything. It used to be nothing there. And so the conversation has been really open and transparent with the neighbors. Like, for us, it's like, what do you want? Do you want this beautiful open space to be 2,000 homes? Because that's what it could be anytime. Like, to sell it, mow it down, it's going to be a bunch of apartments, or do you want us to like try to like figure out this kind of cultural conservation? We invent terms all the time. So everything we do, we're like, oh, we play this on TV, and then all of a sudden you're an expert. We're like, great, but you're always pretending and fake it till you make it, right? So, we're having this like conversation about what can this be? This doesn't have to be 2,000 homes. This can be this like beautiful space, but it's going to have, you got to be okay with the music. And so new neighbors, they come in hot and heavy. There's 500 new neighbors a year in this neighborhood. And they just a couple of them spam us. You need to change your hours and you need to do this. And I'm like, just come to the festival. And we give them tickets. And, the guy that gave us the most trouble said he saw God. He said, I saw God. He's like, you're all good. I love it. I was there till 4 a.m. on Saturday, and I was like, it's like you have to have like deep conversations and be not afraid to like have disagreements with people. And you're like, it's trade-offs. What do you want? What do you think? And so we do make a lot of changes, try to make it responsive to them. We're talking about, building a Red Rocks of Oregon style venue there permanently in like 4 or 5 years as a way to kind of, because right now we just come to the farm and then it's back to a horse farm. There's like nothing there. But so it goes on. And we like that engagement of the community, we just did a 10-year permit. We put it, like you can sneak that stuff in the States. You can just say, oh, here's my permit. I put up a sign and somebody mailed stuff out and no one paid attention. And oh, guess what? There's all this stuff happened. We're like, ads and blogs. We're like, write letters, whether you like us or not. Do you want us to exist? We had open houses, and we ended up with like 1,700 letters for and 4 against. And so, and I met with two of the 4, converted those 2, and we didn't have anybody really opposing us except a guy that we don't buy hay from anymore. And he was just mad at us for that. And it's just generally, it's just, they're people, and like we've had a good, and city council, we have a city council. 4 of the councilors I've really become good friends with, city manager. One of the councilors does not really engage with us, but so it's totally functional, it works great. And then we did a much more formal surveying with some college students doing like a master planning of this venue. That was like 13, it was a very scientific development study, 1,300, and 87% really want this thing to be conserved. So we're laying the political thing for the politicians. We're like, look, your people want it. Now it's not like if it should happen, it's like how it should happen, which is a whole nother story yet to be written. So I'm playing a developer on TV.
Yeah. A great thing I want to say, when you mentioned surveys, we're doing LieLow's doing these things called prairie sessions. So throughout the year, we have artists come in and we can sponsor them through Stagehand, which is in partnership with CADA. So by doing that, we also do a survey at these events. And everyone who's there, we try to get everyone who's there to give us some of their data so that we can then look back at that and see what we can change and shift. One of the primary things that we see on there is do more. This is awesome. I want more of this. And less tables or something logistically that's in the bar that has nothing to do with us. But a lot of it is, this is great. I want more. Yeah, so it's people are hungry for the community. So it's building that trust, building that alignment, and just showing up.
We only have a short time, and we might as well make sure it's the best time that we can. And I really appreciate you guys all coming out. We're going to be around. We're going to showcase today, so please keep this conversation going.
Yeah, and I want to open up the floor for if anyone has any questions or just wants to talk to me in general, reach out on Instagram or reach out to Chad or talk to me today. I would love to go for coffee with anyone or just talk just in more of a local base. I would love to expand that further beyond this room. So,
Same with me. So I'm here today.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
thanks for coming.
thank you.